All right, this should be extremely fun. Wow, we like to have fun. What's up? What's up? What's up? Jerron Tyler here, founder of Posterity.ai, a AI-powered business credit software and platform to help you grow, build, and expand your business credit and funding. And today, I wanted to come to you guys and bring you just a little bit of insight for my brand new entrepreneurs. This is something that I'm seeing a lot in the marketplace right now. And so I wanted to bring this to you guys, discussing the purpose, the benefit, the luxury, the necessity of business bank accounts and how important they are. In addition to that, I also want to talk about this aspect that's a very interesting conversation, talking about where to actually go and get a business bank account, where you should bank at, why you should bank there. But again, primarily talking about the benefits of a business bank account. And so what I have up here on this board is I actually have a few pinpoints that we're going to kind of walk through and go from there. But just to share something a little humorous with you guys, I actually have about 9 business bank accounts. And a lot of times people will say, well, man, that's a lot of bank accounts. Like, why do you have all of those bank accounts? Well, that's because I do personally have a lot of funding. And for me to have as much funding as I have, then it would be necessary for me to have as many banking relationships as I have. Because there are some institutions, there are a lot of institutions that just simply require you to at least establish a business bank account with them. And so at this point, man, I've been able to, by the grace of God, garner over $1 million in funding and approvals. And man, with that being said, I had to go out, and a lot of banks actually required me to have established bank accounts. And so, man, with that being said, I'm going to show you guys my board here. And the very first note that we have up here is the corporate veil. The corporate veil is the very first one that we have up there. And, Jerron, what's the purpose of this whole concept of the corporate veil? Well, the purpose in getting an LLC, a S Corp, a C Corp, a nonprofit is to simply draw separation between the owners, the members, and the actual entity in and of itself. And so when you do not have a business bank account, you're now piercing that corporate veil. So I'll give you guys an example. Let's say you have a business and you're selling product, right? You're selling product and you're transacting a lot of product and a lot of business. And you are putting that particular money directly into your personal checking account, right? That's one instance. The other instance is you're putting that money directly inside of a business account. However, as you're putting those same dollars inside of a business account, you're going and you're paying personal expenses out of that account with no documentation, right? You're not doing an owner draw. You're not paying yourself as a W-2 employee, right? You're just going in and there's absolutely no protection, right? The purpose of the bank account, the purpose of the LLC is to draw separation between you and your finances and then the business and the business's finances. And so you make a huge mistake by going out here and actually not having a business bank account. The cool thing about business bank accounts is, man, there's really not much of a difference between that and a personal account. You can go get a business bank account, especially at small community banks, especially at credit unions. You can get them for free, literally with no monthly fee per month. Now, when you start talking about the larger banks, yeah, they may charge you like a $15 maintenance fee or membership fee every month, but that pales in comparison to the protection that you actually get by way of having a business account. And so again, I know it's not everybody, but I'm running into a lot of brand new entrepreneurs, man, that are really just hustling. Right? You're hustling, you're, man, trying to get the business off the ground. You're selling something here, selling something there, but you absolutely need a business bank account. Another thing that I would highly recommend to you guys is being able to engage with vehicles that can cause your money to grow faster. I've been full-time entrepreneur for 3, maybe going on 4 years now. I've been in overall sales, business, and finance for the last 10 years, working under other people's umbrellas. But I say all of that to say one of the things that I've learned, one of my major takeaways that I've learned within these last 10 years, and especially the last 3, is that it's not what you have, it's knowing how to utilize what you have. And leverage is the greatest key. When you talk about a bank account, you can have a checking account, which I highly recommend for your everyday transactions, but then you can also have a high yield money market account. You can have an account that is working 10 times harder for you while you're asleep, while you're on vacation, while you're even working your business. And so it's about leverage. It's about compounded interest. And so when we talk about business bank accounts, that is also something else that I would recommend. Get your company a bank account that is tied to savings, that is tied to investments, that is tied to you constantly overcoming or accruing interest while you're not actually working, man. All of the work and all of the money does not always have to be built directly off of your back. But if you can find an account where you can actually put that same money and that money can go out and make you money, the average checking account right now is making about 0.6% interest, right? But a high yield money market account may make you anywhere between 3.5 to 4% APY on the year. And so, that's something else that I wanted to share with you guys. Now, the next one we have here, very simplistic, very, 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 very simplistic, is organization. Throughout my seminars, my classes, boot camps, and workshops, one of the things that we utilize as a staple is having a corporate book. Your corporate book just simply holds all of your company's most important and vital documents inside of it. Whether that's something as simple as your driver's license, your social security card, your articles of organization, just your LLC docs, your EIN docs, profit and loss statement, tax returns for the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, right? You want to be able to have a corporate book that you can go and put your hands on physically. And then you also want to have one virtually. When you start talking about going and getting approved for funding and talking to different banks, underwriters, institutions, banking managers, when they ask you for documentation, one of the fastest ways to draw friction is to have to wait a whole 24, 48, 72 hours just to send one document. I was recently at a business buying summit in Washington, D.C., and there was a lady who ran a business, and she did a bed and breakfast. Her and her husband did bed and breakfasts all throughout the state of Maryland. And she was talking about her experience with the SBA. And she said that at the time she was talking to her loan officer, and he said, Miss Ma'am, if you can get me these documents per 15 minutes after request, you and I are going to be in good standing. Now, obviously, man, he wants to make his job even easier. But one of the things that people have to understand is that underwriters are still people, right? We have AI, back when I was in the mortgage industry, that was 36, 48 months ago. But we had AUS, right? You had the automated underwriting system. And so, you can run files through and get your quote unquote approval. But at the end of the day, a human being still has to touch that file. And so a lot of times, when you don't have your documentation in order, you make it extremely difficult for the underwriter to go in and do their job and approve your file. And so again, I have organization here because if you are not organized and you do not have a business bank account, number one, you make it 10 times harder for approval. Number two, it makes you unorganized, right? You got, somebody sent you Cash App, then somebody sent you you sent the invoice, somebody paid you via credit card, then another person paid through this method. And you got, your personal bank account here, your personal bank account there, your business bank account there. Now, granted, if you are on the move, depending on the construct of your business, sometimes you just got to get it how you live, right? If this is somebody's payment method and you're on the spot, you don't want to turn down a sale. But at the same time, all of these things should be systemized and you should be organized to a point, man, where you have one or two payment methods and they're going directly into a business bank account. I'm telling you guys, it's going to hurt you. It's going to help you tremendously on your pathway and on your journey. So the next one we have here is we have funding through relationship. As I mentioned, maybe think about Steve Harvey, relationship. But there's funding through relationships. And so again, there are business banking institutions that will require you and mandate you to open up a business bank account with them. Right? You have to open up a business bank account with them, and that right there grants you access to going in and getting approved. And My recommendation, when you open up a business bank account for the very first time, my recommendation is at minimum to put $1,000 in there. If you are just starting out, perhaps your funds are a little tight. You can't, you're like, Jerron, I can probably put about 500, 250. Now, if you're somebody, in the quote unquote next bracket or next tier up, and you're sitting on $25,000 liquid cash, I would recommend going in and putting about $5,000 to $10,000 in there. Go ahead and fund yourself. Thereafter, you're somebody that's sitting on $60,000 to $100,000. Man, I'm gonna go ahead and put 25 to 30 grand inside of the account, right? And so, with that being said, I just believe that it's best practice, right? Some people say, you don't have to fund yourself, you don't have to put money inside of a bank account. Perhaps you don't, right? I mean, I've gone to banks before where I didn't put a super large amount into it, but I just believe in the law of reciprocity. I believe in the law of the seed. If you put something in the ground, something will come out. But better yet, not just something comes out, something greater tends to come out. And so we believe in the law of reciprocity. Anytime you are looking to gain or garner something from anybody, you want to invest or give some type of exchange for it. And so, just think about it. If somebody comes and opens up a bank account, they put $0 in the account. Another person comes in, you come in and you put $15,000 in the account. Who do you think is going to be more favored by the bank, right? And so, just remember that when you're going to open up an account, try to put something in that account, okay? Now, the very next one here. All right, I talked about, how many accounts that I actually had. I have about maybe about nine business bank accounts. But I want to warn you guys, when you're going to open up bank accounts, be careful to not open more than 2 or 3 in the same time frame, because there is this thing called check systems. Check systems is a credit reporting agency. However, what they do, their main focus is documenting your banking history, your banking transactions, and how you engage the banks, right? They are in place to detect fraud, to make sure that you are not, quote unquote, taking advantage of the system in a spiteful way. And so with that being said, you want to make sure that you're very intentional about the banks that you open up, by not the actual number of banks that you're opening up, by not just going out and trying to go open up 9 banks just because you heard Jerron say he had 9 accounts. You want to go open up 9 accounts in one day, because you will be flagged by check systems. And with that, they will put a freeze on your quote unquote social security number, which would block you from being able to go and open up accounts. And so you guys want to keep be on the lookout for that. Now, touching on the next part, and I actually don't have this written down here, but engaging where, right? Jerron, where should I actually go and get a business bank account? Well, the first thing that you want to do is you want to survey your surrounding areas where you primarily work, whether that is your home, whether that is your office, whether it's a virtual address, whether it's a place that you frequent with your clients. And I'm just speaking to that realm, because that right there gives us the ability to engage by way of proximity, right? If you have to actually go and make a physical deposit, or you have to make a physical withdrawal, you don't have to drive 2, 3, 4 hours just to get to the bank. Heck, you don't even have to drive an hour, right? You want to have banks that are near where you operate and where you do business, right? So again, whether it's your home, whether it's brick and mortar address, a virtual address, or a place where you kind of fellowship and congregate with your clients, right? If you work virtually, at a coffee shop, or, a public hub, or whatever the case may be, a library, wherever you work, you want to have institutions close to those areas. The next thing is you want to actually speak to your bank rep. You want to speak to your bank rep, you can call them on the phone and kind of get an idea as to how they feel about your industry, right? You have a lot of banks that do not like certain industries. And so if you are going to a bank, let's just say you have a trucking company. Let's say you have a software company, and let's say you have a digital marketing company, right? Just using these random businesses as an example. So you got trucking, you got software, and you got marketing, and you're trying to go to PNC, and you're trying to go to, let's say Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo says, you know what? We absolutely do not like software companies. They are high risk, right? We've had 1,000 of them come through here and all of them went downhill, right? They have red flags within the banking institution. So you don't want to go and start your bank account or start a business bank account with that bank, because it's not that they don't like you. It's not that they don't like, your marketing plan or your staff or your vision. They just don't like the overall industry, right? So you guys want to keep that in mind. You do not want to go to a bank that does not like your industry. The next thing is that actually coincides and ties directly into the funding space. Well, Jerron, where should I go bank? Well, I highly recommend having a bank, again, by your home, a bank that loves your industry. But in addition to that, I highly recommend that everybody have at least one credit union business bank account. That credit unions are non-profit organizations. And the benefit of banking with a non-profit organization is that they generally do not charge you an inordinate amount of fees. They generally do not charge you hefty fees to have an account. And with that being said, they generally have lower APRs and interest rates on all products. Now, they rarely, a lot of them don't really have 0% interest products. Some do, not all of them. They typically around on the credit card side will start you off anywhere between like 10 to 14% on the credit card. But again, that is 10 times lower than, you going to a Bank of America and then after the APR ends, you at 18 to 24%. Right? 22%. And so this is something that you want to keep in mind as well. You want to go to a credit union and establish an account. The next place is that same bank, no matter what it is, whether it's a big time national bank, whether it's a regional bank, if it's somewhere near your house, you want to establish a bank there. That credit union might not be right next to your house, right? But you may have another bank that is near your house. It could be, it could be a PNC, it could be a Truist, it could be a M&T Bank, it could be a Atlantic Union Bank, it could be a Chase Bank, right? And so again, what you're doing is you're diversifying. So you have a credit union, then you have a national bank, you may have a community bank, you have a regional bank, right? And so again, I always say this: if you can see the bank with your natural eye, then you can apply, right? If I can go out and I can actually see this bank, then I can go apply for that bank. So I'm thinking about going to get a business bank account, but I'm also keeping in mind that I want to go with a credit union. And then after that, I do want to bank with a national bank. I want to bank with a big bank. You guys want to figure out, okay, well, Jerron, I keep hearing you say national banks, big banks. Like, how do I differentiate? One of the things that I want you guys to do is I want you to go to ibanknet.com. That's ibanknet.com. ibanknet.com will give you a litany, an overwhelming amount of banks, and it'll more importantly show you the top 10 banks in the country. It'll show you their assets, it'll show you their staff, it'll show you how much they have in deposits. And so I personally love the top 10 banks in the country because they have more capital, they have more leverage, they have more opportunity. And they oftentimes, have more manpower or capital power, if you will, in the marketplace to lend out faster and more frequently. Now, last thing that I want to share with you guys as to why I also love credit unions. I love credit unions because when you go to credit unions, they oftentimes have niche products. By niche, I mean exclusive. I mean, custom, if you will. And so, like, for example, I'll give you guys like Sandy Spring Bank. Sandy Spring Bank was actually just purchased by Atlantic Union Bank. However, Sandy Spring was, just such a phenomenal bank because they were, a smaller institution, smaller community bank, if you will, but they had niche products for their members. They had signature lines of credit. Right? On the mortgage side, they had so many different exclusive mortgage packages that they could offer to community members simply because their actual purpose in the community is to reinfuse capital into the community, right? They were not a CDFI. However, they were a community bank. CDFIs is a community development financial institution. When you are looking at institutions like this, their purpose is to infuse capital back into the marketplace. Well, not just the marketplace, but the community, to ensure that the community remains afloat. They called, are called, quote unquote, the disenfranchised. I really despise the word, don't like the word, because I don't identify, nor do I want you to identify as a disenfranchised person. But hey, depending on where you live and the opportunities that you have to take advantage of capital, hey, man, I guess you might be disenfranchised. They give you a $50,000 loan. but yeah, man, this is again, man, wanted to wrap this up, man. Thank you guys for watching. Again, the purpose of a business bank account, where you should go, why you should go, and how you should go. Again, Jerron Tyler here, posterity.ai. Man, if you found value in this video, if you know anybody specifically looking to get into business, perhaps they already started a business, they kind of selling something here and there, but they still a sole proprietor. If you found value in it, we just ask that you like, comment, share, and subscribe, baby. Man, y'all have a blessed one on purpose, and I will talk to you guys soon. Let's go!